Liars of Reddit, what was the biggest lie you got away with? When I was 13 to 14, I was kicking a soccer ball around inside the house. I used to love running around the house, dribbling, cutting in and out around the furniture. My morn would get on to me repeatedly about it, saying it was only a matter of time before something broke, blah blah whatever. One day she leaves to run to the store right after scolding me about that damn ball. Me being me, as soon as she leaves, I naturally start dribbling around and end up accidentally kicking the ball through a window pane, shattering the window, glass everywhere. I start freaking out because this was literally my mom's only rule. So, being the smart 13-year-old, and realizing I have close to 5 minutes to fix the situation before all hell breaks loose, my genius idea is to scoop up all of the glass that was kicked outside and throw it back inside. To make it look like I was playing with the ball outside, not inside. I figured she would be much less upset at me if I was playing outside in the yard. I vacuumed all of the loose glass inside and sat on a bench outside until she came back. I played it off perfectly. My plan worked effortlessly. I should have just blamed it on my brother in hindsight. When I was 14, I was at a Boy Scout camp for a week, and me and a few of my friends were playing tag around our camp. One of our heavier members ran over to the camp table and jumped onto the bench. It broke the nails and the table completely fell apart. We tried to put it back together before the leaders got back from whatever meeting they were at, but we were running out of time. So instead we got the camp axe and broke the table apart. Then we spread it out in the woods as far away from our camp as we could. Then we found a campsite whose troop wasn't there and stole their table. A few hours later the troop stopped by asking if we had seen their table. We never told anyone. TLDR. Broke a table at scout camp, hid it in the woods and stole someone else's table. I told some people in my elementary school there was a secret level in Super Mario 64. I was jealous that everyone had a Nintendo 64 and my family couldn't afford one. So I convinced people not only that I did have an N64, but also that I had found a secret level that they didn't know about. Our local news station announces school closings for snow and ice. Apparently they believe anyone who emails them. I was the principal of 10 or so different schools. Ended up getting like 4,000 kids out of school the next day. I was 20 when I got my first internship. I was eating lunch when everyone in the office started talking about their pets. Someone asked me if I had a pet and I reflexively answered yes. No idea why my brain panicked and did that, but it's weird to say, yeah, I have a dog. I mean, no, I don't. So I just went with it. Turns out, there are a lot of pictures of cute puppies on the internet and it makes a great excuse to leave early when Chester has an appointment with the vet. I told my English class in grade 9 or 10 that I had tried out for American Idol. Even though I'm Canadian, I was homesick the day of the tryouts. So I had a pretty good setup, I thought. One of the guys called me on my shit, asked me to bring in my paper number, the thing that the contestants wear on their shirt to give them an ID number. My dad used to do bike races. He had a bunch of those things. I cut off the top that said, British Columbia Racing, or something like that and brought that in. The guy was flabbergasted. My teacher then asked me what song I sung. So I said, I just wanted to get on TV, so I sung the Pokemon theme song. Quote, teacher then wanted me to sing it, but I said I was too shy. No one ever asked me about it again. Sorry, Brian. You got me. You deserve to know. Not biggest but most amusing. My wife and I were in Mexico. Stopped at a convenience store to get some snacks and stuff. The clerk told her how much it was in Spanish. My wife looked confused for a moment. So I repeated the total for her in English. I could tell it made an impression on her. For a long time after, when talking about foreign language, she would tell people how quickly I pick up on it when traveling. I know this was when she first formed that opinion. I've never told her. I read the number on the cash register. A couple years ago I started seeing a therapist I didn't want my parents to know about. I was 18, so I didn't need them to sign on. And I paid out of pocket with money from a part-time job I had. My brother and I shared a car, but since he was at college out of town, it was effectively mine. And I used it to get to my therapist's office. I went to my appointments at the same time every week and told my mom that I was going out with some friends for bingo night at a local pizza parlor. Since I actually did have a history of going out to play board games with friends, this didn't raise any suspicion. One day, about a month into this, I walk out of my appointment to see my mom's car parked next to Ryan. I think, fuck, it's over now, I gotta tell her, and walk over. She's standing by her car when I walk over. I'm not sure if she saw me come out of the building, but I think she must have. She said something to the effect of, shitposting. What are you doing here? I said something like, and she goes, did you come out here to be alone? So I just went with it, put on a sheepish face, and said something like, yeah, pretty much. She says, yeah, I come out here too when I need to cry sometimes. I didn't know what to say to that, so I gave her a hug. Drove off to run some other errands. Then went whore. She never brought it up again. And I continued seeing that therapist for 7 months with no one the wiser. I have no idea how my mom didn't pick up on it then. Writing this, I wonder if maybe she did, she just didn't want to confront me about it or something. But then again, I doubt it. My mom can be pretty oblivious. Still, for those 8 months no one knew I was seeing anyone or, from what I know, suspected anything. My best friend has a funny, cool older brother named Jason. We all went to church together, and eventually me and my buddy got old enough for youth group where Jason was. Well, the first time I ever met my youth pastor, Jason turns to me and says, hey, make up a fake name and just roll with it. The youth pastor was similar to Jason in that they both were big jokesters, so I shook his hand and said, hi, I'm Derek Johnson. Possibly one of y'all's name out there, but not my real name. He welcomed me and then left to prepare his lesson. Obviously, me and my buddies lose it and burst out laughing as soon as he walks away. Soon enough, he starts his lesson, and I'm waiting until after to tell him I'd and not Derek Johnson. Well, as I'm about to break the news, Jason stops me and convinces me to keep it going. Says it'll fade out eventually. It did not. We got super into it, and eventually it became natural. 2 entire years spent of conditioning myself to only respond to Derek when called by people at church and my real name everywhere else. We would go on a bunch of field trips to various places, including Disney, where my ticket even said Derek Johnson on it. One day we were paintballing, and me and my pastor began talking about life. He asked what my dad does for a living, and I talked about the software distribution company he works for. Apparently 25 years ago my youth pastor also worked for the same company and sat next to my dad, who he plays golf with regularly. That was quite a moment to get caught in, haha. One of my teachers in BTH grade gave me a 0 for a project I didn't turn in. I told her I did it and handed it in. She said that she felt bad that she lost my work and that I wasn't getting credit for all of the effort I put into the assignment. So she gave me 100 for a project I never did. Ma goody 2 shoes. So the fact that I did that and got away with it still blows my mind to this day. I was interviewing for a bunch of exclusive private high schools. During one of my interviews, the lady asked what worldly current events I cared about. I fucking froze and couldn't think of any news story at all lol. I paused and just said, the war, and burst out crying uncontrollably because I had nothing else to say on the matter except it sucks. So I am crying and the lady goes, oh no. Sweetheart, do you know someone overseas? And I just nodded and she apologized profusely. When it came time for my parents to join us in the interview, she told my parents she was sorry about our family member fighting in Iraq. They just looked at her and nodded. Didn't say anything. Had no idea what she was talking about. Anyways, this woman fell in love with me and said I was such a uniquely compassionate 13-year-old. She ended up calling our house the night we were supposed to tell them if I would attend or not. I felt bad but I ended up somewhere else. This isn't my biggest lie, but for some reason popped in my head. There is a social circle I am in that all think I am 4 years older than I am. It originated as a way for underage me to get a drink in a bar. And well, I never exposed the truth. So now a couple dozen friends and even a couple short-lived girlfriends all think that I am exactly 4 years older than I am. I have been to birthdays, engagement parties, and even a wedding with these people. I still regularly go out to get drinks with this group. We play some sports together. We watch a lot of movies. We have good times and bad. But my life has this big 4-year gap in it that, through years of stories and questions, has become a false period. Effectively, I took 2 parts of my life and expanded them to make the dates add up. I lived in Brazil before college, but to this group that was 3 years instead of 1. And I lived in New Zealand after college. But, again, 1 year becomes 3 false dates for graduations. And different steps in life have been a little hard to keep track of. But I manage. Honestly, I only don't tell there because of how long it has been. Plenty of these people are younger than I claim to be. But I fear the awkwardness of exposing a lie they have believed for years. I accidentally broke a window when I was doing target practice with my crossbow in the backyard. So I told my dad that someone threw a rock through the window while I was inside making food. I planted the evidence, aka found a big ass rock outside and brought it in and made the hole a bit bigger to fit. I got pulled over for speeding 70 on a 45. I spilled my water bottle on my pants before the cop walked up to my car. I told him I was trying to get to the bathroom, and he told me to go. This one is relatively innocent, but I like it. I was on a trip with my then GITL friend, now wife, to the Twin Cities. We are nerdy, knee-story people. We were going to take a tour of a local historical house later that day but had some time to kill. We actually parked in the lot for St. Paul's Cathedral. I really had to piss, so I convinced my wife that the church would likely be open to the public and would have easily accessible bathrooms. When we walk in the front doors, there's a group of a few dozen people just standing there. They all turn to look at us. I felt like we did something wrong just by being there. Then someone at the head of the group speaks up. Hey, are you here for the tour? We've been waiting for you. Quote, I have no idea what's going on, but I decide to play along. Yes, I respond. Sorry we're late, but do you mind if I use the restroom first? Quote, they agreed and we got a private guided tour of the whole cathedral, including the crypts below. It ended up being the highlight of the trip. No idea what that group was or if we were supposed to have paid or what.